All my favourite lenses have gone. I spent years building up a really nice collection of Canon EF glass. They weren't stolen. In a flash of potential madness, I decided that this lockdown might be a good time to sell them all. Probably a mistake. Let me explain. Ta-da! One of the most asked questions I get is, what camera should I buy? And I usually say, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about the camera. Concentrate on what lenses you want to use and buy the best camera you can afford that uses those. And now I've gone and broken my own rule. You see, good quality lenses should last a lifetime. You really don't want to be swapping the whole of your system very often. But if I list all of the cameras I've bought since I went freelance, you can see there's quite a mix. Sony 400p, Sony 700p, 790p, Z1, Canon 5D Mark II, the Sony F3, the Panasonic GH4, Sony F5, Canon 70D, Panasonic GH5, Sony FX9, and now Sony A7 Mark III. They're all A and B cameras. But the camera that really screwed things up was the Canon 5D Mark II. And it was amazing. The first large sensor camera that I could use for professional video work. But I needed some full frame lenses. And because I already had some Canon gear, Canon EF lenses were the obvious way to go. So I started some serious collecting. And I loved my Canon EF lenses. Some of them I thought I'd keep forever. There's the classic 85mm f1.2. What a creamy, flattering portrait lens. Then there's the 70-200 f2.8. That was a game changer in its own way. 50mm f1.2, or even the super sharp 16-35mm 2.8. These were all classics, and it was just the start. There were lots more. And as my video cameras progressed, now with larger sensors, I found adapters that would allow me to continue to use the Canon EF lenses on all these different cameras. It was a bit of a workaround, but it was worth it for that glass. And then I suddenly realised I wasn't using a single Canon camera anymore. Everything I was using every day needed adapters. My glass was lovely, but it was getting hard work. It's slower to swap lenses, and I was missing out on lots of the new features on all my latest cameras, like autofocus. The FX9 here was the last straw. It's a brilliant camera with great pictures, but it doesn't play well with adapted lenses. I sort of got my Canon EF lenses to work with it, and if the autofocus worked at all, the lenses were way too noisy. They'd chatter like a freezing cat. I don't know why I said a freezing cat. I was also using a GH5 as my B camera, but even this needed a speed booster to work with the Canon lenses. This was getting all too confusing. And I realised I was getting to a point where I really only had two choices. Do I buy a couple of E-mount lenses for the FX9 and then maybe a couple of native Micro Four Thirds lenses for the GH5 and carry on as before? Or do I bite the bullet and sell everything? All my lenses, all my cameras, apart from the FX9 of course, and switch everything to E-mount? Buy a whole load of new E-mount lenses and make it compatible across the range. It's a big decision, it's a costly exercise, and not something you want to do very often. So that's why all my favourite lenses have now gone. And I got quite emotional. Some of those lenses have been with me, man and boy, for many years. But this is a business decision, and it has the potential of making my job a lot easier. I hit eBay hard, and in just 10 days I had enough cash to start thinking about what I was going to buy when the lockdown ended. The B camera had to be the A7 Mark III. It was the obvious choice to go with the FX9. I already had the 28-135 powered G-Master lens for those run and gun type jobs. I'd obviously want the 70-200 f2.8 and an 85mm 1.8 for those portrait interview shots. I needed a super wide, so that's the 16-35mm f4 at the moment. The cheap 50mm 1.8 pocket rocket will tide me over until I work out what proper primes I need. Maybe a nice 24mm f1.4, or even the 35mm that Philip Bloom raves about. But what do you think are the most important full-frame E-mount lenses to get? All of this sounds quite exciting, but actually I found it a little sad and quite stressful. I don't have brand loyalty, but I've noticed there's a lot of cameramen that do. There's those that think they can't be taken seriously unless they're shooting with a red, or the Arri snobs who are living on past glory, or all the Canon fans who think that a little bit of colour science is worth twice the price. I don't think the camera is that important. People don't hire me because of the camera I use. I hope they hire me because of the images I produce. Or maybe I'm too cheap. I just want the most efficient tools that allow me to do a good job and produce the sort of images that I want to produce. I don't need to have the latest trendy camera. I mean, it's nice to have new toys, but if we're honest, 99% of your clients won't even notice. When I was packing up all of my lenses for eBay, I got quite emotional. Some of my best work had been produced using those very lenses, and now they were all going. But really, we shouldn't be defined by what kit we use. It should be how we use it, how we use our cameras and our lenses to produce the best visual stories that we possibly can. Besides, I'm getting quite excited now. I've got autofocus. Thanks for watching. Oh, hello. You still here? You've watched to the very end. I admire your dedication. As a small reward, you might remember a video I made a couple of years ago now about this Canon EFS 10-18mm lens. It's made for APC size sensors. This video was the first video I made that anybody watched, and it's the video where I chopped the back off it. It does, however, work perfectly. In fact, I've hardly used it, and it's great for going on a speed booster on a Micro Four Thirds or anything like that. Now, obviously, I can't actually sell this lens, partly because I adapted it, but also because I fell off my bike and chopped chunks out of it. But it still works perfectly. If you'd like this lens, complete with all the missing bits, all you have to do is write in the comments section below, I watched to the very end and I'd like that lens. Make sure you're subscribed and we'll put you in the draw. We'll announce it on a future video, we'll draw at random. But really, your chances are going to be quite high because who else apart from you is going to watch this video to the end?